3 Spine-Chilling Stalker Tales. Unveiling sinister secrets of the cursed and haunted encounters, Jenna stared out her kitchen window, her heart racing as she caught a glimpse of her neighbor, Mr. Dalton. Once a friendly face, now he lingered in the shadows of his porch like a specter, eyes glinting with an unsettling intensity. A chill ran down her spine as she watched him, the knowledge settling deep within her that things were not as they seemed in this decaying suburb of Ohio. As the night draped its dark veil over the quiet streets, she couldn't shake the feeling that something sinister pulsed through the air around her. The laughter of her children, Mia and Lucas, had faded into restless whispers that filled their quiet rooms with anxiety. They tossed and turned, their sleep disrupted by nightmarish visions that clung to them like a shroud. It was a feeling of dread that Jenna couldn't quite place, a growing terror that might consume them whole if she let her guard down for even a moment. Jenna clutched her coffee cup, its warmth a feeble comfort against the encroaching darkness. She had taken countless shifts at the diner, the hum of the coffee machine and chatter of customers blending into a monotonous rhythm. Yet, the shadows of the night hovered like specters, pulling her deeper into an abyss of paranoia. It was as if the very neighborhood itself writhed in discord, every creak and moan echoing with unholy secrets as her resolve crumbled. She made her way to the attic one fateful night. Just a few clothes to donate, she muttered. But instead, she found a hidden room, the air contrived with a suffocating stillness. Behind a crooked shelf lay dozens of lifelike doll figures, each bearing haunting similarities to missing individuals from their community. Her breath caught in her throat as recognition washed over her. These weren't just toys. They were imprints of the lost souls absorbed by the shifting shadows enveloping the neighborhood. Panic surged through her veins. Jenna bolted down the ladder and into the main room, the doll's glassy eyes following her every move. Determined to seek help, she reached out to the police, but their indifferent stares told her all she needed to know. Just rumors, ma'am, one officer had scoffed, dismissing her desperation with a wave of his hand. With growing frustration and fear, she turned to Mr. Hargrove of the neighborhood watch for help. "It's just a story," he assured her, the laugh lines on his face deepening with false reassurance. But shadows brushed against the edges of her faith, whispering that he wasn't the man he pretended to be. As the night thickened, she felt the walls close in, her spirit crushed beneath the weight of uncertainty. The dolls echoed with chilling murmurs, weaving a tale of a protective spirit, a guardian lost to the horrors beneath their feet. Each corner of her home trembled with suspenseful energy, the edges softened by her growing paranoia. Who could she trust? Before we continue, I need to tell you something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to their system, and many people are missing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and select all notifications so you don't miss future videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. Suddenly, a knock echoed through her home. Each thud sent shivers coursing down her spine. A voice called from the darkened threshold, sweetly luring her with promises of safety, while echoing the whispers from the attic. Jenna hesitated, heart pounding. The air grew heavy, thickening with the scent of unspoken threats. The darkness outside seemed to stretch, curling its fingers around her heart, squeezing tighter, urging her to open the door. With her children sleeping soundly within the walls of their sanctuary, Jenna was left to confront the chilling reality. Would she risk everything she cherished for a glimmer of hope, or plunge into the sinister unknown that festered just beyond her reach? As the whispers intensified, wrapping around her like smoke, she stood frozen, dread settling into her bones. What lay waiting just outside would determine not only their fate, but also uncover the truth lurking beneath the surface of this horror she called home. The air hung thick with tension as Jenna contemplated the door. Each knock echoed her uncertainty, clawing at her resolve. She stepped back, instinctively cradling her arms around herself, feeling exposed. The voice outside was both soothing and sinister, its melody laced with danger. "Jenna, I can help you open the door." A shiver raced down her spine. Who was this person and how did they know her name? She glanced back at her children, their innocent faces blissfully unaware of the encroaching terror. What if Lucas or Mia woke and wandered out? The thought twisted her stomach into knots. Just then, a soft breeze whispered through a crack in the window. The scent of something sweet and rotting wafted in, making her gag. It infiltrated her senses, tainting the air with decay. She turned, her heart quickening, fear morphing into fight or flight. The voice called again, this time sharper. Do you really think you can keep them safe? The dolls they want to play. Panic surged through her body. Each syllable dripped with malice, exposing her vulnerability. Jenna could feel the weight of unseen eyes boring into her, demanding she decide. She wanted to flee, to run into the night and never look back. But where would she go? And what outside was more dangerous than what lurked within her attic? Mustering her courage, she approached the door, her trembling hand hovering above the knob. On the other side, footsteps shuffled impatiently. The voice morphed into a low hum, seductive yet threatening, promising knowledge and power. With a burst of determination, she flung open the door, only to face nothing. The porch was empty, cloaked in shadows, but the crisp night moved with unnatural stillness. No sign of a presence, yet a lowered whisper brushed against her ear. Too late, fear washed over her as she scanned the area. Her eyes darted to Mr. Dalton's porch, where he stood, body rigid like a statue, staring unblinkingly into her home. His expression was warped, a twisted smile pooling like oil across his lips. She felt as though she gazed into a void, into something malevolent. The dread intensified, wrapping around her limbs, immobilizing her. "Mom!" A tiny voice broke through, shattering the tension. Mia appeared at the top of the stairs, eyes wide and innocent. "What's wrong?" Jenna's heart lurched. She turned sharply, her protective instincts flaring. "Sweetheart, go back to bed." But as she spoke, a creature from the dark dashed across the yard, too fast for her to see clearly, slipping back into the shadows like a mist. The air thickened, growing colder, and when she turned back, Mr. Dalton was gone. Just like that, the night swallowed him whole, and the cold that lingered seemed less about the temperature and more about something unnatural. "Mom, I'm scared," Mia said, her feet slowly shuffling down the hallway. "I had a bad dream, stay close," Jenna urged, wrapping her arms tightly around her daughter. She felt the weight of safety shift. It could slip away at any moment. The walls of the house began to pulse, the whispers inside crescendoing with mounting pressure. In the depths of her heart, Jenna feared the true horror of the night was yet to reveal itself. From the attic, she could have sworn she heard the almost jovial laughter of the dolls. When should they have feared? The sinister stillness of the night was deceptive, but the terror, it was already seeping into their lives. Suddenly, more knocking sounded, this time from above. A heavy thud that vibrated through her bones. "Mom!" Lucas yelled, his voice laced with fright. "They're coming, I don't want to play." Jenna's heart sank as she stared at the stairway, dread crash-landing in her stomach. As she turned to the source of the noise, a creeping horror clawed its way to the surface of her thoughts. What had she truly invited into her home? The door creaked shut, sealing not just the entry but her hope of escape. And above, a soft giggle echoed, sending chills shivering down her spine. What should she confront first, the darkness above or the shadows lingering outside? The clock was ticking, and time was a cruel master that would not wait for her to decide. Jenna felt her throat tighten as Lucas's terrified shout echoed through the dim hall. The attic loomed above her like a dark cloud ready to unleash chaos. She tightened her grip on Mia, their small bodies pressed together, a fragile barrier against the horrors that threatened to shatter their fragile security. "Mom, please," Lucas's voice quivered, a mix of fear and desperation. "They're in my room." Jenna's heart pounded. What did he mean by they? The dolls? She couldn't shake the feeling that something wicked had seeped into their lives the moment she bought that wooden chest filled with those lifeless eyes. The knocking above persisted, a dull thud that rose above her racing heartbeat. It wasn't rhythmic. It was frantic. Something wanted to break free. She suddenly recalled the tales of her childhood, the stories whispered on dark nights about dolls coming to life, owing their souls to a darker master. Their coming Lucas's voice trembled again, each word like shards of glass. Jenna turned to the staircase leading to their rooms, and she could feel each creaking step echoing ominously. "Stay behind me," she commanded, her voice stronger than she felt. With hesitant breaths, she led Mia toward the stairwell. The warmth of their home felt like an illusion. The air was thick with fear. She focused on the dim light above, that single bulb hanging like a sentry, ready to dim any moment. Each step sent echoes through the hollow house, a reminder of her vulnerability. Shadows danced around them, lengthening, twisting in unnatural angles. She cringed as the attic door rattled, and a whisper coiled through the silence. "Playtime, Jenna." Summoning every ounce of courage, Jenna pushed aside the mounting panic. "Lucas, I'm coming," she yelled, as she reached the top of the staircase, half expecting the worst. The door to Lucas's room stood ajar, shadows deeply spilling into the hall. Jenna stepped inside, her pulse racing wildly. What she saw stopped her cold. The dolls. They weren't in their chest anymore. They surrounded Lucas, their porcelain faces devoid of emotion but undeniably imposing. They stood as if in formation, with their glassy eyes fixed on the boy sprawled against the wall. Lucas trembled, his tiny hands shaking as he tried to push himself into the corner. "Get away from him," Jenna screamed. The words carried a mix of fury and desperation, yet the dolls did not flinch. Their presence felt alive, vibrating with a sickly energy at her threat as if responding to her defiance. The dolls tilted their heads in unison, and for a brief moment, Jenna thought she saw a flicker of something malice? Pleasure? It felt like they were relishing in the fear they had induced. Then, silence enveloped the room, a hush that pressed against her ears, saturated with whispers of her name. "Jenna, do you want to play?" "No," she shouted, charging forward as a rush of adrenaline took control. She could feel Mia clutching her leg, the little girl shaking, mirroring her own rise of horror. As she reached for Lucas, something swept behind her in the darkness. A cold wind gusted through the room, extinguishing the feeble light above, plunging them into a nightmarish black. Panic surged, but Jenna's maternal instinct screamed at her to protect, to act. The laughter of the dolls echoed in darkness, chilling her blood. "You'll never escape, you've invited us here. Stay close." Jenna pulled Lucas up, the weight of his terror mixing with her own. But even as they retreated, Jenna felt the room shift around them. "Mom, they're coming," Lucas pleaded, and beneath her fear, her heart slashed with something agonizing, a realization that maybe they were already trapped. As they stumbled out, desperate to reach the safety of the hall, the attic door slammed shut behind them with a deafening finality. The sound rattled the very walls of their home. And then, amid the encroaching darkness, she felt it, a presence closing in around them, whispering clawing promises. What doors had she opened? The dolls weren't just a nightmare. They were the harbingers of a fate that Jenna was beginning to fear was inevitable. The clock was ticking, but now the question lingered thick as the air. Could she uncover the truth before the shadows consumed them all? Jenna slammed her shoulder into the doorframe, trying to keep the panic from overwhelming her. Lucas clung to her side, his breathing rapid and shallow, urgency mixed with despair. Mia trembled, her tiny hands gripping Jenna's leg, as if it were a lifeline in an ocean of chaos. "Mom, what do we do?" Lucas whispered, his voice barely audible over the suffocating darkness that now enveloped them. "I don't know," Jenna replied, her heart racing. The haunting laughter of the dolls echoed in her mind, mocking her with every breath she took. The hallway felt like a dark tunnel, stretching endlessly in both directions. The moment before, it had all seemed safe. Now, it twisted into something monstrous. From the corner of her eye, she spotted movement. Shadows flickering, weaving through the dark, and for a moment, it looked like the dolls had moments ago escaped their wooden prison. They twisted and turned, their figures silhouetted against the walls, all too close. "We have to get out," Jenna growled, her voice catching in her throat. She turned to lead the way back down the hall, but the sensation gripped her. Something cold slithered over her skin. She stumbled, looking back, and saw the attic door had been wrenched open, spilling a faint, sickly light that seemed to beckon them back. "Stay close," she commanded again, but it was like shouting into a void. The oppressive weight of something lurking just beyond the threshold pressed against her chest, and she hesitated, feeling the fear clawing at her resolve. "Lucas, Mia, listen to me." Jenna tightened her hold on the kids, forcing herself to sound calm. "We need to make it to the front door. If we can get outside, we can get help." They moved, inching down the hallway. Each step felt like trudging through quicksand, as if the house itself wanted to swallow them whole. The dolls' laughter filled the air, a sinister reminder of their presence, swirling around her like cold tendrils. "Where are you going, Jenna? You can't leave us?" The whispered taunts turned her blood to ice. She stumbled, but Lucas was quick to pull her back, eyes wide with fear. "Mom, please," he shouted, panic rising in his voice as he pointed to the living room. "The dolls, they're coming." Glancing over her shoulder, Jenna felt her heart plummet. The dolls, how were they moving so fast? They weren't just still porcelain figures anymore. They were a swarm of malevolence converging, their eyes glinting with remorseless hunger as they crept closer, their laughter morphing into a chilling chant. "Playtime, playtime, playtime." Icy dread seeped into Jenna's bones, overwhelming any flicker of hope left. "We need to go now." Jenna pushed her way toward the front door, adrenaline surging through her veins. She could almost taste the freedom of the outside world, but an agonizing pull came from the darkness of the living room. There, visible just beyond her line of sight, was a figure tall, shadowed, and beckoning. "Jenna." The voice was soft, sickly sweet, echoing through the air. "Run," she screamed, and they sprinted for the door, but the dolls were already forming a barrier between them and the exit. "Save your breath," she heard one of them whisper, as they began to close in, grotesquely smiling, teeth too sharp and shiny beneath the dim light. In that terror-filled moment, realization crashed into her. These weren't merely dolls, they were conduits, vessels of something ancient, something that sought to claim them. Jenna reached for the door handle, but it wouldn't budge. Panic surged within her, threatening to suffocate. "No, no, no." Suddenly, Mia cried out, pointing to the wall where shadows twisted unnaturally, forming grotesque shapes. Jenna turned, breath hitching as she took in the sight. Something was emerging from the darkness, large and misshapen, filling the space they had just escaped. "Mom!" Lucas screamed, eyes wide with terror, as Jenna felt the cold prick of dread settling deep into her core. What truly haunted their home? Was the threat more than she could ever fathom? The low murmurs grew louder, wrapping around them, like a noose, and in that moment of desperation, in that dawning horror, Jenna was faced with a chilling thought. Even if she escaped tonight, was there truly a way to run from what had already entwined their fates so tightly? As the darkness thickened and the dolls began to inch closer, Jenna understood one thing: time was slipping away. What more awaited them in the shadows? And could Jenna find the strength to confront it before it consumed them all? Jenna's heart pounded in her chest like a war drum, fear ringing in her ears like a death knell. The front door was just a few steps away, but those steps felt like an eternity, the weight of the darkness pressing hard against them. Mia's grip tightened around her leg, and Lucas yanked at her sleeve in panic. "Mom, we have to go," Lucas begged, desperation bleeding into his voice. But as she lunged forward, the door loomed before her, and the handle felt like a cruel joke, a twisted, unyielding metal that refused to turn. The dolls were mere feet away now, grinning, their painted smiles unnaturally wide, eyes flashing like malevolent lanterns. The whispers grew louder, overlapping into a cacophony of childish malice, taunting her very soul. "Will you play with us, Jenna?" The words dripped with sweetness, then morphed into an eerie shriek that made her skin crawl. "Back! Stay back!" Jenna shouted, trying to set her children behind her, arms outstretched defensively. Her mind raced, searching for a way out, a way to make the door yield, to escape this waking nightmare. And then she heard it, a voice that cut through the madness, sharp and commanding. Jenna, you must face the truth. The silhouette in the attic doorway, still an enigma, seemed to pulse with shadows. The whisper beckoned her, soft yet forceful, almost familiar. Jenna hesitated, torn between fleeing from the advancing dolls and confronting the shadow that hungered for her attention. Mom, please, Lucas cried again, pulling on her shirt as fear locked his features into terror. We can't stay here. Let us go. Jenna shouted, but her body felt paralyzed. Suddenly, Mia pointed, eyes wide, teeth chattering. The dolls, they're not dolls anymore. Jenna's stomach churned as she turned. They weren't simply figures. Grotesque forms twisted and churned within the grinning porcelain. Their limbs elongated, crackling like dry leaves. They were limbs of darkened matter, merging and coiling together, as if each doll drew power from another, a grotesque amalgamation of hungry horror. Playtime forever, they chanted in unison, a ghastly echo that reverberated through the house's very walls. The floor trembled beneath her feet, as she felt the energy shift, the very air turning to ice. Go, just go, Jenna commanded again, wrenching the door handle with all her might. Still nothing. Then from the edge of vision, shadowy wisps curled into shapes, dark figures illuminating the space. Each whispered her name like silk, teasing threads binding them tighter to this accursed place. Would they take her children if she stepped back? But there was no more time. The growing mass of dolls surged forward, their clawed hands outstretched, grinning. Panic ignited within Jenna, propelling her into motion. Get behind me! They dashed down the hall, away from the doll's suffocating grip, and into the kitchen. Breathless, Jenna seized a wooden stool, her choice driven by haste and fear. She swung it toward the closest doll, splintering the air with a loud crack. The doll crumpled, but instead of falling, it melted into a puddle of shadow, hissing like steam before reforming behind her. You can't break us, it mocked, laughter erupting like bolts of thunder in her ears. What do they want? Lucas yelled, clinging to Jenna's side as the tornado of chaos spun around them. The children, the figure in the attic sang, the note sweet as poison. They're ours, forever. Come to play. Jenna clenched her jaw, adrenaline surging. They were not merely toys. They were sentinels of horror, protectors of something much grander, something waiting for them in the dark. Mom, look, Mia squeaked, pointing toward the back door, the one leading to the backyard, the only exit that might still be open. Maybe, just maybe run for it, Jenna shouted, her voice breaking as they burst toward the door, the echoes of laughter trailing behind them like a sinister shadow. As they reached the door, Jenna felt a sharp tug at her leg. It was Mia, rooted to the floor, staring wide-eyed at the darkness coiling on the other side. Mia, we have to. Go. Jenna's voice felt frantic, edged with raw fear. But as Jenna reached for her, the kitchen air thickened, acrid, sparkling like electricity before snapping violently. The figure threw itself into the room, solidifying into a vortex of shadows and malice. Did you think you could escape us? It growled, its voice now a combination of each doll's mocking tone. Waves of terror crashed over Jenna, overwhelming her senses. Despair clawed at her heart. They had to escape. They had to. As she pulled Mia free, the room quaked, and the last thread of hope slipped through her fingers like sand. What awaited them beyond that door? Would they find freedom, or would the shadows pull them back into the darkness? The truth loomed just out of reach, but as the storm of dolls swirled closer, Jenna braced herself. Maybe the answer lay within the shadows, daring her to confront what she dreaded most. Could she truly face it, or would it consume them all before they crossed the threshold? Jenna's lungs burned as she grappled with the panic wrapping around her throat like a noose. She had to drag Mia away from the encroaching darkness, but Mia's feet felt rooted to the floor, as if the shadows were binding her, pulling her into their sinister embrace. Mia, please, Jenna urged, but the little girl just stared, paralyzed by fear. The darkness beyond the back door writhed, tendrils of shadow beckoning with a sinister, almost seductive quality. Time felt elastic, stretching and pulling as the dolls surged forward, their toothy grins morphing into twisted grimaces. "Stop!" Jenna screamed, swinging the stool one last time. But the wooden weapon shattered against a wall of darkness, splinters flying. They laughed, a cacophony of high-pitched giggles mixed with sinister growls, drowning her in dread. "Mia, fight it! Fight! Focus on me!" Jenna's voice cracked as she reached for her daughter, searching for a spark in those wide, terrified eyes. Suddenly, the figure from the attic lurched forward, illuminated briefly in flickering light, taking on the shape of a woman, her features indistinct amidst swirling shadows. "You think you can protect them?" she snarled, voice darker than the depths of night. "They belong to us now." Electrified fear coursed through Jenna, sending her heart racing faster than she ever thought possible. She bore down, refusing to be swallowed whole by despair. "No, you won't take them." In a desperate act of defiance, Jenna crouched and grasped Mia's shoulders, forcing her to look directly at her. "You listen to me. We are stronger than they are. Look inside. Fight with all your might." Mia blinked, her fear-filled gaze slowly shifting to resolve. Jenna felt it, a flicker of her daughter's will seeping through the heavy air. She pulled Mia close, whispering fiercely, "On 3 we run. No looking back. 1, 2 Mom." "Lucas." Jenna's head snapped toward her son's voice. Lucas trembled by the entrance, eyes brimming with tears, as he pointed toward the dolls morphing into grotesque forms, merging like a nightmarish swarm. "They're taking him." Her heart plunged. There was no choice. Their family was at war against a horde of darkness, and it was a battle they couldn't afford to lose. "Hold on," Jenna shouted, and in that moment, the veil of shadows that gripped the room peeled back, offering a sliver of light. The oppressive weight shifted, as if the house itself was holding its breath. Without thinking, she dove toward Lucas, who was caught in a dance of horror, backing away from the dolls reaching with clawed fingers. "Come on. Mama's here," Jenna yelled, charging forward. Jenna's fingers grasped Lucas's elbow, jerking him away from the encroaching danger. The moment she touched him, an electric surge coursed through them. United, they tore through the partition of shadow, dragging Mia with them. Their feet thudded against the floor as they sprinted toward the door, and the moment they crossed the threshold, the world around them twisted. A hurricane of darkness unfurled and lashed around them, pulling at their very souls. "Mia, Lucas, stay close," Jenna shouted above the shrieks, the air thick with despair and malice as ice-cold claws grasped for them. The shadows thickened, threatening to envelop them as they raced into the backyard. Howling winds whipped past them, but the backyard was no sanctuary. The trees loomed, distorted and gnarled, as if they were judging, waiting. The moon hung low, casting ominous shadows that danced like figures longing to devour more victims. "Where do we go?" Lucas screamed, glancing back at the door they had just fled. The silhouette of the woman in the attic lingered, mouth stretched wide in a grin that spelled doom. "We fight," Jenna declared, rallying her children. "Remember what I said. We're stronger. We will face them." But a chilling laugh echoed from the darkened door. "You can't escape. We always find you." Jenna's heart clenched with terror. Just beyond the shadows lay something darker, more powerful, waiting to be unleashed. They had run, but were they truly free? As they stumbled through the yard, searching for a way out, the chilling weight of the truth settled in. What awaited them in the depths of that darkness? The air snapped, and Jenna felt a prickling at her spine. What if the worst was yet to come? She turned to see the labyrinth of shadows pulse, drawing closer, and in that moment, her resolve ignited. Could they survive the night, or would they be ripped apart by what lurked just behind the veil? Jenna scanned the backyard, her heart pounding like a war drum. The trees twisted above them, branches clawing at the sky, each one whispering secrets of ancient evils. A sliver of moonlight broke through the clouds, illuminating the path ahead. "This way," she shouted, leading Lucas and Mia, their hands intertwined like a fragile lifeline. The shadows lurked just behind, shifting and swirling with an eager hunger. The laughter grew, echoing from the darkness, winding through the air like a serpent seeking its prey. It was intoxicating, threatening to drown them in its madness. "Don't listen," Jenna yelled, forcing her children forward, determination cutting through the fear. Mia stumbled, her small legs struggling to keep pace. "Mom, I'm scared." "I know, baby. Just hold on. You're brave, remember?" Lucas glanced back, fear etching lines on his face. "They're getting closer. We can't let them catch us." His voice quivered, each word dripping with panic. As they dashed beneath the gnarled trees, Jenna's breath came in ragged gasps. She felt the energy surrounding them shift cold, alive. The shadows seemed to take form, swirling into figures that stretched and reached for their warmth. The realization hit her hard. Running wouldn't be enough. "Mia, Lucas," Jenna called, halting their frantic run. "We have to find a way to fight back. We need to use the light." "The light?" Lucas echoed, confusion lacing his voice. "Yes." Jenna's mind raced. "The flashlights. In the shed. We can't let them take us." They pivoted, sprinting toward the dilapidated shed at the edge of the yard. A grave sense of urgency pulsed beneath her skin as footsteps echoed behind them, sinister and heavy. The door loomed closer, dark and foreboding, each breath swallowed by the thickening air. "Mom, they're right behind us," Mia whimpered, her fingers slipping from Jenna's grip. Jenna's heart lurched. "Mia!" She lunged forward, just as the shadows surged from the trees, tendrils grasping at her children. Jenna's fingers brushed the cold metal of the shed's door, shoving it open with a heavy groan. "Inside! Quick!" They tumbled into the cramped, musty space, the scent of decay overwhelming. Junk covered the floor, old tools, cobwebs shadowing forgotten memories. With trembling hands, Jenna fumbled for the flashlights, each tick of the clock sounding like the death knell. "Mom, hurry!" Lucas urged, eyes wild as the laughs outside reached a fever pitch, filling the shed like a drowning tide. "Got it," Jenna gasped, her fingers closing around the beam. She flicked the light on, its beams slicing through the darkness, pushing back the looming figures. The laughter faltered, shadows retreating as if burned by the brightness. "Keep it steady," Jenna commanded, her heart fierce, the protective instinct surging. But the lights flickered. A whisper of dread tickled the back of her neck. Something was wrong. "We have to move," Jenna said, glancing toward the door. Shadows flickered at the edge of the light, grasping and clawing for entry. "We can't let them in." "Where?" Mia's voice trembled, fear piercing her words. "Backyard." Jenna pointed, desperation mixing with her courage. They bolted out, the light in their hands a fragile barrier against the enveloping black. Once outside, the air felt thick like smoke, swallowing every ounce of hope. The shadows writhed in the trees, waiting, watching. And then they came, a flood of darkness surging forth, moving with a life of its own. Jenna's heart raced in sync with the chaotic rhythm echoing in her ears. "Run!" she shouted, as the wave of figures surged forward in a grotesque dance. And that laughter, twisted and triumphant, filled the air once more. They dashed around the corner of the house, searching for somewhere, anywhere to hide. But the yard felt alive, shifting with shadows, closing in on them, an impending doom tightening its grip as they reached the fence. Jenna spotted a gap. Hope flickered anew. "Over there. We can slip through." One last helpless glance back sent her heart spiraling. The dark figures were advancing, pressing in, but the children were her focus. Now! They dove through the gap, bodies colliding with the ground on the other side. But before they could even catch their breath, a hideous laughter echoed from the yard behind them. It morphed into a discordant melody that floated on the night wind, wrapping around their ankles like creeping vines. Jenna's blood ran cold, and an icy realization washed over her. What if we don't escape it? What if we're already trapped? The darkness pulsed with intent, a waiting predator. And beyond the fence, the shadows danced, waiting for the moment the light would fade. What would happen next? They landed hard on the other side of the fence, scraping skin against the rough ground. Jenna's breath came in shallow bursts, heart racing like it wanted to escape her chest. Get up, she urged, pulling Mia to her feet, while Lucas struggled to shake off the shock. The laughter morphed into a dissonant cacophony, lingering in the air, haunting them. Jenna felt her pulse quicken. This way. She pulled the children toward the overgrown path that led deeper into the woods. Each step felt like a challenge, the weight of dread pressing against her. Where are we going? Lucas asked, glancing over his shoulder. Somewhere dark and quiet, she whispered. Somewhere they can't find us. The trees loomed tall and twisted like grotesque giants, blocking out the moonlight. The oppressive darkness was a blanket, heavy and suffocating. Every rustle of leaves sent spikes of fear through Jenna's spine. Stay close, she urged, keeping their hands tightly woven together as they moved. Jenna felt the shadows pulse around them, alive and pulsing with a sinister energy. The guttural whispers grew louder, slithering into her mind. Just ignore it, she murmured, trying to reassure herself as well as the kids. But the doubt clawed at her insides. Mia tugged on Jenna's sleeve. Mom, I can hear them, I know. Sweetie, Jenna replied through clenched teeth, forcing herself to keep her eyes forward. Just stay with me. But the laughter wouldn't cease. It twisted into mocking tones, as if playing a cruel game. Jenna could almost feel the eyes watching from the shadows, their gaze like icy fingers penetrating her skin. Let us hide, Lucas said, pointing to a dense thicket. Jenna nodded, leading them into the dense brush, thick branches weaving around like prison bars. Breathless, they crouched among the undergrowth. The sound of their hearts beat in sync, louder than the night. Jenna held the flashlight close, praying the beam wouldn't flicker again. Suddenly, a cold wind swept through the thicket, chilling them to the bone. The laughter rose, surging like a tide. Where are you hiding, little ones? It was a whisper, but it filled her with terror. Mia pressed her face against Jenna's leg, trembling. Lucas pinned his eyes to the entrance of their makeshift hideout, body tensed like a spring. Stay quiet, Jenna whispered, her voice barely escaping her throat. She couldn't let them know they were there. But the shadows shifted, settling deeper into the underbrush. Jenna could see shapes moving along the edge of the clearing where they had entered. Dark figures whispered to each other, their voices crackling like thunder. We will find you, Jenna's heart twisted. They know, she gasped, gripping the kids tight. We need to move now. Before they could make a sound, one of the figures stepped closer, gliding through the shadows with an eerie grace. It seemed to shimmer, almost blending with the night. But those eyes burned bright like coals in the darkness. Mom, look, Lucas whispered, eyes wide, pointing. She held her breath. For a brief second, the light from her flashlight flickered back on, casting their hiding spot in a pale glow. The figure stopped, head tilting as if it were trying to peer right into Jenna's soul. In that moment, Jenna realized they were out of time. They had to take a chance. Run, she screamed, shoving the kids ahead of her as they burst from the thicket. But the laughter surged once more, a wicked sound that wrapped around them with heavy chains, and suddenly, the very ground shifted under their feet. Go, Jenna shouted, her voice strained. Don't stop. The shadows writhed at their heels, but the forest ahead looked endless, dark, and full of uncharted terror. As they ran further into the depths of the woods, Jenna could feel the warmth of the children's hands slipping from hers. The pursuit continued, relentless and merciless. And then, a chilling shout echoed from behind them. You think you can escape? It wouldn't cease. The darkness was everywhere. What do we do, Mom? Lucas cried, his voice breaking as fear gripped him like a vice. The shadows. Jenna spotted a faint flicker of light ahead. A cabin? Was it real or just an illusion? There was no time to hesitate. Follow me, she yelled, as despair clawed at her insides. The light ahead flickered like hope, yet the shadows clawed even harder to drag them back into the night. Would this cabin hold salvation or further doom? The weight of darkness pressed in, threatening to swallow them whole. Jenna had to know, was the light really the answer, or was it yet another trap set by the hungry shadows? What if it's worse? She whispered, fear rebelling against her resolve as the pounding laughter echoed once more, ready to consume them. They stumbled toward the cabin, breathless and frantic. With each step, Jenna felt the laughter convulse behind them, a sinister echo that wound around her like a vine, tightening with each frantic heartbeat. The warm glow ahead drew her closer, a beacon that fluttered like a moth's wing in the encroaching darkness. Mom! Mia's voice cut through Jenna's focus, fear laced with desperation as she pulled her hand away. No! Stay with me! Jenna grounded her grip, feeling like sand slipping through her fingers. She could sense the shadows twisting, stretching toward them, aching for their flesh. They reached the door, an old, weather-beaten structure standing defiantly against the night. Jenna's heart raced as she fumbled with the knob. It felt impossibly cold, as if the shadows were seeping through, hanging on her every movement. Open it, Lucas urged, glancing back at the growing darkness. The door creaked violently as Jenna pushed it, the sound breaking the dead silence like thunder in a quiet storm. Inside, the cabin smelled of mildew and decay, the air thick with a staleness that made her gag. Barely illuminated by a single flickering bulb, the space was cramped, filled with ancient, cobweb-covered furniture. Get in. She shoved the kids inside, then stepped in behind them, shutting the door abruptly. A loud thud resonated from the outside, sending a shiver down her spine. It was as if the darkness had hit the door with a fist of fury, demanding entry. She could feel its breath against the wood, hot and heavy. Where do we hide? Lucas's voice quivered, straightening at the sound. Over there. Jenna pointed to a small alcove behind a dilapidated sofa. It was dark, more welcoming than the encroaching shadows outside. With hurried movements, they scrambled into the hollow space, pressing against the wall, heartbeats colliding in a symphony of terror. They waited, breathless and wide-eyed, peering out into the dismal room. The flickering light danced like a desperate flame, revealing the absurdly warped shadows outside through the grimy window. The laughter began again, muffled but clear, a promise of doom lingering just beyond their view. Mia trembled beside her. What if they find us, Mom? Jenna inhaled deeply, her mind racing. They won tea, she whispered, but doubt clouded her voice. The remnants of her confidence started to crumble like the aging floorboards beneath their feet. What do we do now? Lucas's question hung heavy in the space between panic and paralysis. Jenna's gaze darted around the cabin, searching for anything, a weapon, a way out, but all she found was neglect and despair. Maybe they can't get in here. Jenna tried to sound optimistic, her mind straining against the gloom that threatened to consume them whole. Just as she formed the thought, the light flickered again. It dimmed, casting everything into a shadowy world of shapes and whispers. Then, out of the deep silence came a soft knocking. The sound was slow at first, almost teasing. Jenna's heart raced, thrumming louder than ever, wishing for an escape. Who's there? She called out instinctively, drowning the siblings in her protective tone. No response. Just that hollow cadence of knocking echoing from the door they had narrowly escaped through. It was relentless, each thud seemingly an invitation to the unknown lurking just outside. Mom, what if it's worse? Mia's small voice pulled Jenna back into her fear, and a shiver of icy dread coursed through her. They huddled together silently, listening. The laughter of shadows outside twisted into a sinister song. Mom, it knows, Lucas whispered, almost pleading for a magic that Jenna couldn't provide. She swallowed hard, uncertainty spiraling. If they remained silent, would the darkness tire and depart? Then, to her horror, the door creaked open, and Jenna held her breath. Come out, the voice was sweet, but laced with poison. We just want to play, we've missed you. The pressure of the moment felt like the world itself held its breath, and a chilling horror curled itself around Jenna's heart. What had they stumbled into? The shadows beckoned, and Jenna's instincts screamed at her to move, to flee. But now the door was open and the choice was no longer hers to make. Would they be taken by the night, or could they escape this twisted game? As dread loomed larger, the sibilant whispers wrapped around them tighter, closing in like a noose. Jenna felt her chest tighten, fear constricting around her heart. The figure stood in the entrance, an embodiment of the darkness they had fled, its silhouette blending seamlessly with the shadows. "We've missed you," it cooed, a voice sweet yet dripping with malice. Her children shivered beside her, confusion and dread painting their innocent faces. "Stay back," Jenna shouted, her voice cutting through the thick air. She clutched the flashlight, its beam flickering alarmingly between them and the dark figure. "You want to take us?" The figure laughed, a chilling sound that echoed through the cramped cabin. "Oh, but you've already invited us in, Jenna. You can't escape the playtime now." Panic surged within her, igniting a primal instinct to protect her children. "We'll find a way. We're stronger," she shouted, determination hardening her resolve. But inside, she felt the foundations of her courage wobble as the shadows surged at the edges of her vision. Creeping closer, voices melding into an unsettling chant. "Playtime, playtime, Mom. What do we do?" Lucas cried, gripping Mia's arm tightly, his wide eyes reflecting the terror of the moment. "Listen," Jenna urged, trying to compose herself. "We can't show them fear. We need to fight back." The figure shifted, a sinister smile growing, revealing rows of jagged, perfect white teeth. "That's the spirit. Let us play." It began to glide forward, malevolence pouring from its every pore like a thick fog. In a burst of instinctual bravery, Jenna lunged forward, wielding the flashlight like a weapon. "Get behind me," she shouted. "Let us shed light on this darkness." The beam illuminated the room, momentarily pushing back the shadows, and for a fleeting moment, she felt their power waver. "Use it," Lucas shouted, pointing toward the darkness, where shapes writhed like snakes, inching ever closer. "All of you, we must hold the light," Jenna directed her children, and they rallied around her, their small hands gripping the flashlight as if it were their lifeline. Straining against the darkness, the room felt alive, vibrating with a conflict between light and shadow. "Don't let them take your minds. Hold steady." The mocking laughter intensified, blending with the guttural growls from the shadows, but Jenna held her ground, her heartbeat a defiant rhythm against the encroaching doom. Suddenly, shadows snaked toward the light, reaching for Mia's small form. Jenna felt her heart drop. "No, not my kids." With a surge of fierce love, she stepped forward, channeling all her strength and will into the beam. "You don't control us." The light blazed brighter, and shadowy forms recoiled, their features twisting in fear. For every inch they advanced, the light pushed back harder. Jenna could feel a shift in the room, a repulsive force dissolving as they held the line of light between them and the malignant specter. "Keep going. We can drive them out," she urged, her voice breaking through the oppressive gloom. The shadows shrieked, swirling into chaos, confusion seeping into their ranks. "All together," Jenna commanded. Mia and Lucas set their fear aside, and in unified strength, they focused the light, shining it brighter against the oppressive dark. The light exploded into a blaze, illuminating the cabin in a brilliant radiance. "We can't play in the light," the figures shrieked in unison, their forms dissipating like smoke caught in a breeze. "Now, we run," Jenna shouted, pushing the door wide with all her might. The shadows wailed, swirling in a tempest of rage as the family burst free, the precious light chasing away whatever had gripped them moments ago. Outside, the air felt clean, the moonlight illuminating their path in sheer clarity. Jenna grasped her children's hands tightly, running until their breaths came in ragged gasps. The weight of darkness lifted, but doubts lingered. Had they truly escaped? "Where do we go?" Lucas panted. "Wherever the light leads us," Jenna replied, her voice determined, glancing back as the shadows flailed behind them but dared not follow. "Together, we stay together." And together they ran the darkness, fading from sight, their light growing stronger with every step, weaving a tapestry of resilience against the terrors of the night. As they breached the tree-line and the cabin vanished into the distance, Jenna felt something within herself lift. A flicker of hope ignited. They would face the dawn together, whatever came. "Mom," Mia chirped, pulling on her sleeve. "Are we safe?" "Safe? Yes, sweetie," Jenna promised, her heart aching with love and relief. "As long as we're together, we can face anything." With renewed courage, Jenna led them forward into the light of a new day, the shadows of the past finally slipping away. But remember, dear viewers, light and darkness are forever at odds, and paths are easily veered. So now, if you want more spine-chilling tales that keep you on the edge of your seat, you need to subscribe immediately to the channel. Smash that like button now to feed the algorithm. Flood the comments with your reactions and theories. What do you think will happen next? And please, don't wait even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who need to experience this conclusion. This is the moment to show your support. Your voice matters in this haunted cacophony.